Welcome to the Motherhood Alliance podcast, the podcast dedicated to empowering moms and families on their health and wellness journey. I'm Brittany Suttner.
And I'm Andrea Rankus. Together, we're here to explore holistic approaches that go beyond conventional medicine.
Each week, we dive into topics that matter most to you, everything from nutrition and mental health to alternative therapies and natural living.
We'll bring you the expert interviews, insightful discussions, and practical tips to make motherhood a little easier and help your family thrive.
Please keep in mind that this podcast is for informational and educational purposes only and is not intended to replace the advice, diagnosis, or treatment plans you have with your personal healthcare team. Please have a conversation with your trusted healthcare provider prior to making any changes or implementing any strategies or advice you learn from this podcast.
Whether you're a new mom navigating the early stages of parenthood or a seasoned pro looking for new ways to support your family's well-being, you're in the right place.
Here at the Motherhood Alliance podcast, we challenge the status quo, ask the tough questions, and offer a supportive community for moms who want to make an informed, holistic choice.
Thank you for joining us on this journey.
Let's get started. Hi, we are Britt and Andrea from motherhoodalliance.com, and we are excited to welcome you to a 4-episode series with Karen Kieffer, a licensed independent clinical social worker and certified transformational nutrition coach who specializes in trauma, PTSD, anxiety, and depression, with a current focus on those who are preparing to become first-time parents. Karen is the owner of Snowfields Coaching and the creator of Embodied Dialogics, an approach designed to help individuals and couples work through childhood trauma before a baby arrives so they're not carrying old patterns into the next generation. Her work is highly individualized and shaped by decades of experience in mental health systems, education, community development, and leadership. What makes Karen's perspective especially powerful is that it's grounded in lived experience. After navigating her own lifelong trauma and later a cancer diagnosis that prompted her to stop postponing the things that mattered most, she returned to school in her 50s to become a clinician and build the kind of support she wished had existed earlier in her life. We're really excited to share Karen's expertise and experience with you. Let's get started with today's conversation.
Hey everybody, welcome back to the Motherhood Alliance podcast. We are here with Karen from Snowfields Coaching. Welcome back, Karen.
Thank you.
We had a lovely conversation in the first episode talking about Karen's story and just how her life it's very interesting, everything that she's done and how it's kind of led to where she's at today. In this episode, we are going to be talking about how parenting it feels harder than ever before. Her specialty, or what she's aiming to really help, is parents in the prenatal phase. And I think that really talking about this subject is going to be helpful for those of you who are pregnant or want to be pregnant, and even parents who have kids now, and just giving a nice perspective. And I think Karen's going to be great with that. So I guess my first question for you is, do you think parenting is harder now than it was in our parents' or grandparents' generation? And why do you think that is?
So my first answer is yes. But our parents and our grandparents lived in totally different situations and they had their own struggles. I mean, I don't think parenting is ever easy or can be easy or maybe should be easy. So every generation or every individual has their own stresses and struggles of parenting. And the way that I work is understanding the nervous system is a really fundamental place to start. And where did that come from? We evolved this nervous system a very long time ago, millions of years ago. And evolution doesn't happen as quickly as change in our world happens. So we're trying to adapt given these systems that were made for a whole different environment. So we are meant to know a few people very well and really interdependence. We are not meant to sit at a desk from 9 to 5. I mean, our modern life is so different than what we were evolved to do. All of our systems are primed for living in the natural world and in small groups. So now we have this overwhelming amount of information and knowledge we have to navigate, situations that we are just not evolved for. So our nervous system evolved to protect us and help us survive, not necessarily be happy. That's important, but definitely to survive. And our dangers were very physical. They were predators, storms, fires, illnesses. So that's what we're optimized for. And so now, if you can't pay your rent or your mortgage next month, your body only knows how to mobilize these resources to get you physically to safety. That is not helpful. So what do you do with that?
Yeah.
Right? And once you amp up in this physiological way to high anxiety or high emotion, you lose that connection with your frontal lobe that actually helps you think and make decisions and problem solve. So that adds to the problem.
Right.
And when you think of what the world was like even 1,000 years ago, what were your concerns? They were your daily things in front of you. You weren't thinking about nuclear war. You weren't thinking about going to Mars. You weren't thinking about making your way in a job, in an organization of several thousand people. It's just bewildering to our human selves,
When I think about even with our grandparents' generation, this was before social media and all of that stuff. And they say that today you're more connected than ever, but you're lonelier than ever because people just don't have the family support that they used to have. You think about like raising kids, it used to be a lot more of like a whole family approach.
Exactly.
We're just very siloed. However, we like see it all. So I completely agree with what you're saying.
So this is why, we take these big social structures. And if you have a problem with it, we individualize that to you. It's a problem with you, right? And everyone has these same problems. Who do you know that is not too stressed or too busy, or we don't know anyone like that anymore? Because even if they're not too busy, they're stressed by whatever issues they have that are really difficult to resolve anymore. And we have had this breakdown where everything is so individualized that we have deprioritized as a society our social networks in real life, right? We don't live near family anymore a lot of times. So we take it upon ourselves to provide all of these things for ourselves that used to be provided in community. And so we talked about self-care. Oh, you just need to do more self-care. You need to relax. But we're taking responsibility for things that are structural, really. And we're blaming, the receivers of this. This happens in mental health too. There's so many people with anxiety right now. It's been an unbelievable, I'd say 1,000% worse since before the pandemic. Every day it's worse. And why is that? Is it because you personally suddenly can't handle your emotions? No. This is the soup we're living in right now.
Soup. That's a good way of saying it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And we feel like we're being cooked in it.
Yeah, right. And as kind of bringing it back to parenting itself too, we as parents are trying to deal with, what we grew up in, our generation, and even how our parents treated us. And now we have young ones ourselves, and now we're trying to help them regulate their emotions when we can't even handle our own, right?
Exactly.
In a soup world of all sorts of, advertisements coming at you, everything coming at you. And it's just really challenging. So how do you help parents navigate this? How do you help them overcome or help them with their emotional regulation to help their children?
So I work specifically in this prenatal period before somebody has their first child, because as parents, once you have that baby, you don't have the same ability to focus on yourself as you did before. So that period before that baby comes is so important for getting your house in order and being able to focus on yourself in a way that is really supportive even of your health and your pregnancy. Learning about how you got the system that you have is so important for how to intervene. So I help people learn principles of how to deal with their own stuff from their own childhood. And again, as parents, I think it's really common once we have that baby, we start reliving our own childhood and our own parenting. It comes to us, comes through us. I remember saying things I've never said in my life, and I'm like, where'd that come from? Oh, my parents said it to me. It was in there, but now it's coming through automatically through, we learn through what our parents model.
Right, exactly.
So if we know these skills of we're not going to be perfect people all with no problems, right? But what we want is the skills to deal with what comes up in the moment and be able to maintain our calm so that we can be present parents. We can be nurturing, kind parents, even with whatever stuff we have, however busy and stressed we are. We do not take it out on that child.
Right.
And the younger, maybe the more impact little things have on development. So those early things are really important to understand what to do with your own stuff. And everyone's different, so different stuff comes up for them. But if they have principles, they can say, oh, this is that, I need to do this.
Yeah, I just love that you're catching the parents in that prenatal period. Like Britt and I can definitely appreciate that, even with our background in more the physical aspect. But one of the biggest things is, you're teaching those skills, but it's also teaching that awareness. When you're a first-time parent and you don't have kids yet and you're pregnant, you're excited, everything's, you go on prenatal appointments and get in the bed, everything ready. But it's like, you really do need to take care of your mental health. And I don't think, as a first-time parent, I'm thinking back for myself, I wasn't thinking about how I was going to treat my kids. I was going to be like, it's going to be great. You have this kind of thought. But when the baby starts crying, when they're toddlers, and when they're older, that is when you figure out what you're really made of and how you can, treat them in a way that breaks cycles or, not cause trauma.
Right. And this is so important. This is something that I have lived. I didn't have those skills when I first became a parent. And I started learning about these things when I started studying trauma and emotional systems and all that. And I realized my daughter was like 12 years old. And I realized, oh my goodness, the harm that I've done, the lack of skills that I have had. And I think it was really important to learn that, but also talk about it. And because we can repair things, we can help our children developmentally, even if harm has already happened. And in that we teach, we model like reflection and, problem solving on important things, relational things, internal things, and we get to work on it together. So, and this can happen, I think, even when we're adults with adult children, if you can engage with each other. But it's understanding where you're reactive that is so important and where that comes from so that you can work with it. And if it does happen, you model what to do when you got overwhelmed. You teach your children what to do, right? Because they need those skills. It's going to happen to them, right? Especially the younger they are and the least skilled they are. It's going to happen more often. So it's part of modeling is so important for teaching children,
Yeah, I always think that too. Like if I say something or don't do something, like the way I feel like I should have, if I hurt my kids' feelings, apologizing is one of the best things. I mean, it helps me, it helps them, it helps that modeling, it helps that relationship, which is the most important thing.
Agreed. Mm-hmm. Yeah, because, in any relationship, stuff's going to happen because your stuff comes up and you are unskilled with it often. And over time, with caring about that and trying to understand the person you're in relationship with, their stuff, that's when you can really create relationships that are really resilient and interdependent and supportive of growth and happiness,
Yeah. So I feel like, just having that understanding and awareness that, for example, like how you help people, just even talking about this, somebody might just be like, I do have some things going on. I just don't even think about it. Right. And then also the topic that we had before, this world is very overwhelming. There's a lot of things going on and our nervous system is constantly being pushed and prodded in directions that we're not meant to be in. And so obviously there's things that we can do, like, looking at the sun and being out around people that care about you and things like that. But I think as parents, we need to not only help ourselves, we need to help our kids. What as parents, what can we do to make our lives a little bit less overwhelming and therefore our children's lives a little less overwhelming? How can we protect our families?
I think the relational skills are really important because we are in tough times right now. I would love to say, let's just get rid of our stresses. That's what we need to do. But how are we going to do that? I mean, there are a lot of people who are having difficulty surviving now. They have 2 jobs. They don't have time for their kids. They love their children. There's no question. But they can't be the parents they want to be. And what do you do if you have to work 2 jobs? You can't just say, oh, I'm going to become a podcaster. Or those, you could, and people do it, but those kind of shifts take a lot of energy and internal resources that if you were already beaten down and you don't have them right now, you can't make these life changes and make these decisions of what's going to be better for you. So I think people are just so depleted and there's so much uncertainty right now. It's like, how would you even decide what would be better? Mm-hmm. Right? Nobody knows how to make money right now, like what to move to create more sustainable income for yourselves. Nobody really knows because everything's so uncertain. So there's a certain amount of stuff that we're not going to figure out. We're not going to get to this stress-free life necessarily unless you are very fortunate in your circumstances. Because I do think it's possible. And right now, even I have lots of issues, but I feel like I can still live a happy, mostly minimal stress life. How can we do that? It's an internal process. It's not necessarily changing your external things, but we got to cut out those things that we don't need. Expectations of the world that aren't realistic for us or that we realize we don't even want. That kind of understanding of yourself and what's important to you is a critical first step.
Yeah. And like you said, relationships, taking those the small moments, right? Like if you are working 2 jobs, if you have 10 minutes a day with your kids, it seems like, then, be there for those 10 minutes, right?
Yeah, I find what you're saying encouraging because even though we can't necessarily get out of the soup bowl, right? The relationships piece is something that we can work on and control.
Absolutely. Like if you're in a family who's only taking out their stresses on each other, they love each other and yet they're creating that dynamic. We can change that so that we don't change the outside world, but we change how we help each other through it. And especially when we don't have solutions or even a vision of what to do in so much uncertainty, we can say we're going to maintain ourselves so that we can respond to whatever comes.
Something that we are trying to do this year, or I'm committing to do more this year, is so my kids are 10 and 8, and we've always done this, but not like on a consistent basis, I guess, is that we have 2 kids. And so with 2 parents and 2 kids, it's easy for us to like split
one-on-one
night.
defense.
Yeah. But like the best conversations and I feel like the best relationship building happens when we're talking the kids into bed and it's just one-on-one and we can have conversations about hard things coming up or hard things in the past or just bonding. My son could talk about fishing all day, every day. And if I just let him teach me about fishing lures, that fills his tank. Right. And so we've done it like on and off in the past, but I will admit we've definitely been parents. And I think a lot of people out there would agree where by the time bedtime comes, you are like, hurry up. I need my time or I need time with my spouse or I am just done for the day. And so I told my husband, I said, this year I am prioritizing that every single night we are home. Like we're not, skirting in at 8:30 and we are already rushed from other things. If we are home, we're going to split and we're going to do one-on-one time with the kids because they're getting to ages where we need to make sure that we have trust established, conversations established, relationship established. So that's one example of something we're trying to do. Do you have any other like easy things that parents could implement and obviously this is not necessarily the group that you're focused on helping right now because you're really focused on that prenatal or even trying to conceive period. But for the parents right now, with all of your expertise and your own personal experience, those who have kids, what is something else that they could do or implement into their lives to help build those relationships?
So I think, especially when you're rushed, parents are we herd, we organize, we direct, and we try to get people through the day, right? That role, it's really important. Kids need that. They need the structure and they need that feeling that they're protected and somebody knows what's going on, right? But I think people can skip this part of getting to know your child as they're growing up, who they are. Some people don't know that their kids care about fishing. That breaks my heart.
Yeah.
That we love these little people so much and we don't know who they are. and how they're changing. And if we're not involved in that, we can't influence it. We can't contribute to it. We can't learn from it. We learn a lot from our kids if we're listening, right? And I think it's really important to not parentify a child, right? We don't want to give them responsibility. And yet, they are equal partners in that relational thing. We learn from each other. We develop together. I care how you're doing. Just that presence matters, even if I can't solve your problem, right? You're not alone with it. That thinking through things together, sharing from you, like what were you struggling with today that's appropriate for your child to learn and understand about, to know you as a person, but also to model. How do we think about things that come up? How do we think through these daily things? And it's normal to share them. It's not a risky vulnerability, so that you can model that. And then they're like, well, I had this today and I was thinking about this. And if you just model being open and not necessarily giving advice, right? And shutting down that whole creative process for your child or anybody else, that relational thing, a child feeling safe in that to come to you with things. And maybe not everything kids hide from their parents or whatever, but for big things when they're really stuck and they can depend on you to help them think through it, I think that helps them get through those difficult teen years or difficult moments.
That's like number one priority for me right now is what you just said, is building that. I mean, that's something that we've been trying to do, ever since they were little too. It's a little bit easier because they're always going to come to you when they're little, right? Yeah. But when I have a 12-year-old and almost 10-year-old, and it's like Brittany said, it's to this point where, but it's just like we need to make sure that they know that we're here for them, that they can come to us, that we're not going to overreact. And then, of course, I look back I look into myself and I'm like, I need to work on that. Like not overreact if something happens. Yeah. Because, if he breaks a plate or something, how am I going to react to that? I'm going to be okay with it, or am I going to overreact, and then now something big happens and he's not going to come to me. I don't want that, right? So thinking about that now is super important. I feel like we've talked about, relationships are key, and being there for your kids in ways that maybe you weren't feeling like that when you were a kid, right?
Exactly.
And so breaking those, and it's not necessarily trauma, not for everyone, but it's just breaking that cycle and making sure that your kids know that they're there for you. I think that's so important.
When we're consciously parenting, we're so intentional about everything and trying to shape our children, and which I think is important, providing a certain environment and that relational stuff. But also it's our job to hold the space for their development. We can control who they are. They're going to change in ways we don't know and can't imagine, and go, be their amazing selves. If we allow that process can be freer, And my daughter is 29 years old, and she blows me away. I learned so much from her, and she's so inspiring. I was like, where did you come from? It wasn't me that did that. And it's one thing I feel good about. I gave her that space to be the person that she is. And it's so fun to feel that way about my own child. I really admire the person that she is. It's amazing.
I look forward to that day. Yeah. You always are curious what your kids are going to, look like and do, and their personalities are going to be. But I appreciate what you just said about her, because you also shared early in this episode about how when she was 12-ish, you were like, oh no, there are areas that I've messed
mortified.
up in.
Mortified.
And so look at the hope of when it's never too late, right? No, it's never too late. But I am very excited to, in our next episode, we're going to be really honing in on the first-time parents to be, and how really focusing in on that time can shape their parenthood going forward. But before we finish out this episode, I would love for you, Karen, just to kind of share a little bit about your offerings or your coaching. What would that look like if someone wanted to connect with you and do some coaching with you? Because I know you have a free consult, but just share a little bit about what you offer.
So I'm offering a a 90-day program. It needs to be really bounded, especially in this period leading up to, becoming a parent. You're busy, but we can do so much in 90 days to help start this process. The process, it never ends, but do the big work so that people feel prepared. They know what they're working on. I'm also developing a course so that people will go through this in a cohort together. So, and I hope to have that done, this year. But anybody who goes through the individual coaching with me will automatically be part of that, because I think that community aspect and really practicing these skills with people who understand what they are is amazing. So I'm hoping to get that done. But right now I'm working with individual people or partners together who want to, do this kind of emotional preparation.
Mm-hmm. I love that. So like we mentioned, Karen is offering a free consult, and we have her booking link in the show notes. You can also check out her Motherhood Alliance profile for more information about her. So we are going to be jumping into our next episode, really going to be kind of continuing this conversation, but honing in more so on that population that you're really specializing in now. And then our last episode together is going to be a little bit different twist. It's going to be an introduction to psychedelic therapies. So I'm excited to learn about that as well. If you enjoyed this episode, would you consider leaving a rating or review or sharing it directly with a friend who could benefit from the information? We know that you're a busy mom or caregiver, and our goal is to make your life easier by bringing tips and tricks directly from experts into your earbuds. By sharing this episode with someone you love, you can play a critical role in helping to make their life easier as well. We appreciate your time, and thank you for being a part of the Motherhood Alliance family.